what I will do every week is create a weekly summary and just greeting and overview of what this week entails. And so this is the first one I'm doing. So for week 2, again, you'll go to content or the mini browsers right here, and you'll see the items for week 2. There's a checklist every week. Then there are readings and some activities that require you to do something, perhaps. You'll see the one this week in addition to the reading. And then you'll have, in this case, we have a subfolder, the personal narrative folder that has items in it. So I will go here, though. It's a little cleaner to look at. So week 2, June 3rd through the 9th, checklist right here. I have 4 items. You see a little description there. I really want you to submit the personal narrative rough draft. I know it's a really quick turnaround. You just got this assignment. However, that's what you signed up for an 8-week term. We are required to teach the 3 major assignments that I teach in the regular semester. That's 15 weeks. So we're half the time, but the same amount of assignments. So you have to just do your best. And you could really, honestly, you could submit a rough draft that's half the word count. I'm still going to give you feedback. You need to be probably at half for me to give you decent feedback. If you just submit like a little bit, like 200 words, that's not enough for feedback. But if you do half or more, I can probably give you some feedback. And I encourage you to do that so you can improve for your final draft. So that's a checklist for this week. You'll have to do a discussion post, complete the online module, which are the reading activities, and the lessons, the personal narrative folder lessons. You'll see those in a minute. Discussion post, which is essentially your scene, your intro scene, paragraph or dialogue, and then for your narrative, and then one image is another assignment, and then an optional assignment is the personal narrative rough draft. Okay, going back here to the main folder. This week you have 2 sections. You have a subfolder, which we'll look at in a minute, the personal narrative subfolder, which is part of week 2, a number of lessons in there. But let's start with the week 2 online module. All of these with numbers, you'll see 3.1, 3.6, all of this. These are from the textbook. These are direct links to the chapter. And sometimes I don't want you to read all of the chapter or all of the section that's linked here. In this case, 4.5, I want you to read all of it through the conclusion and reflection, but then nothing after that. There are a couple of sections after that, so pay attention to the details. Sometimes I will do that. And so the first ones here with the numbers are the chapter sections, and then I have a couple of excerpts. So a really good way to learn, a proven way to learn about writing, whether it's creative nonfiction, in this case, narrative writing, or any type of writing, is to read writers who are skilled at their craft. And I have 2 excerpts. One is from David Sedaris, and another one is from Justin St. Germain, Son of a Gun, which is a book. And I just have an excerpt. It's one of my favorite narrative books, or it's a memoir, but really good model, both of these. So pay attention to some of the writing moves they make and kind of observe. And so the links there are there for both of those. Do that on your own time. But again, reading like a writer, so reading to observe, and modeling is really a good way. Like pick up on some writing moves or styles that you see, and try to integrate those into your own writing. Okay, so those are the readings and activities. You have textbook readings, and then 2 narrative excerpts samples that I want you to read and make note of and observe. And then the big box here is the personal narrative subfolder, which is part of week 2. You'll see it's indented over here, so that means it's under week 2, but it's its own lesson block. So this is a PDF of a PowerPoint, and the reason I'm doing PDF is because it works well in D2L. If you do a PowerPoint in D2L, often it doesn't translate very well. It doesn't appear very well in D2L. So you can download that PDF again by going to the drop down here and click download, or under here. Go back to the other components. And then this is a YouTube of that. So this is me clicking through the PowerPoint lesson that's in the PDF
Hello,
form.
English 1101.
So that's me explaining all of the slides, and it's about 14 minutes. And I highly encourage you to listen to this lesson and to view it, because sometimes if you just see a PowerPoint, you don't understand it all. It's good to look at a video. Since we are not in class, I have a video here of the same lesson here. Thirdly, I have a personal narrative introductions and dialogue, just a mini lesson like, hey, what are the strategies for a personal narrative? These are the three really strategies for writing your first passage and your intro. This is not a research paper. This is not a typical academic paper. So don't think of this as a paper. Think of it as a story. So this is like your first passage, you would say, but it's going to be the first one readers see. So it's kind of like an intro. But you have three choices right here. You have a traditional intro. You can write a scene, or you can have a passage of dialogue. And then different ways to mix in dialogue in your personal narrative are listed there. Let me know if you have any questions about this. Very brief lesson, but important to know. And then I have a link in the lesson by the same author, Justin St. Germain, that I mentioned earlier. And I have that in the personal narrative lesson as well. So, and that's the activity I mentioned where you read it. And at the top here, you'll see what I want you to do at home. Really mark it or highlight it or just note it with, in a notebook or in your laptop, what you like about the imagery. And I'll give you one example really quickly. A couple of things. One is, I'll do one imagery, but also one is a timeline, how he points to a timeline. So in this first paragraph, you'll see right here where it says, but it had been 9 days since the towers fell, and we were all newly conscious of planes. I was 20 years old and thought often in the future. Okay, so he tells you he's 20 years old. That's part of his timeline, but in the same passage in the previous sense, it has been 9 days since the towers fell. That refers to 9/11, so September 11th, 2001. So it had only been 9 days since September 11th tragedy attack occurred. So that's a way you can put a timeline in. It would have been very boring and very clinical for him to say it was September the 10th, 2011. It's much more creative to do it how he did it. So pay attention. That's a really good way to implement a timeline without actually saying the exact date. Okay, and then just imagery. What I'm asking you to do here is look for imagery in the text. Here's a very simple example. The streets shimmered like rivers. He's describing the heat. Okay, you can tell it's hot. He says liquid heat, but then he said the streets shimmered like rivers. We've all seen heat from the sun bounce off pavement when it's real hot, and you can kind of see a rolling heat on the street. That's what he's referring to. So anyway, that's imagery, but I want you to look all throughout. There are lots of examples of imagery in this. So do that at home and follow the prompt right here, and this will improve your writing for sure for narrative. And that is it for today. That is the week 2 overview. One more thing, just as I wrap up, I remembered I want you to be sure you know your due dates. I won't do this every week, but remember they're all going to be here anyway. I'm just reminding you in week 2, since we're just getting started. You have one assignment, which is a personal narrative intro, which is right here. You can read that later. You can do, like I said, a traditional intro, write a scene or write some dialogue in a passage. And then you have to upload an image, a photo, a digital image, artwork for your personal narrative, and that is done with this assignment. All of these are due in the same day, same time, next Monday, 11:59. And then we have a personal narrative due, a rough draft, optional, due next Monday at 11:59. Okay, so that's it for week 2. Have a great week. Please email me. Don't hesitate if you have any questions. Take care.